Themis, claiming that they should be made widely known and available to Egyptians. Socrates continues. Themis inquired into the use of each of them, and as Thuth went through them, expressing approval or disapproval according as he judged Thuth's claims to be well or ill-founded. It would take too long to go through all that Themis is reported to have said for and against each of Thuth's inventions. But when it came to writing, Thuth declared, "Here is an accomplishment, my lord the king, which will improve both the wisdom and the memory of the Egyptians. I have discovered a sure receipt for memory and wisdom." To this, Themis replied, "Thuth, my paragon of inventors, the discoverer of an art is not the best judge of the good or harm which will accrue to those who practice it. So it is in this. You, who are the father of writing, have out of fondness for your offspring attributed to it quite the opposite of its real function. Those who acquire it will cease to exercise their memory and become forgetful. They will rely on writing to bring things to their remembrance by external signs instead of by their own internal resources. What you have discovered is a receipt for recollection, not for memory. As for wisdom, your pupils will have the reputation for it without the reality. They will receive a quantity of information without proper instruction, and in consequence be thought very knowledgeable when they are for the most part quite ignorant. And because they are filled with the conceit of wisdom instead of real wisdom, they will be a burden to society. I begin my book with this legend because in Themis' response there are several sound principles from which we may begin to learn how to think with wise circumspection about a technological society. In fact, there is even one error in the judgment of Themis, from which we may also learn something of importance. The error is not in his claim that writing will damage memory and create false wisdom. It is demonstrable that writing has had such an effect. Themis' error is in his believing that writing will be a burden to society and nothing but a burden. For all his wisdom, he fails to imagine what writing's benefits might be, which, as we know, have been considerable. We may learn from this that it is a mistake to suppose that any technological innovation has a one-sided effect. Every technology is both a burden and a blessing, not either or, but this and that. Nothing could be more obvious, of course, especially to those who have given more than 2 minutes of thought to the matter. Nonetheless, we are currently surrounded by throngs of zealous Thuths, one-eyed prophets who see only what new technologies can do and are incapable of imagining what they will undo. We might call such people technophiles. They gaze on technology as a lover does on his beloved, seeing it as without blemish and entertaining no apprehension for the future. They are therefore dangerous and are to be approached cautiously. On the other hand, some one-eyed prophets, such as I, or so I am accused, are inclined to speak only of burdens in the manner of Themis, and are silent about the opportunities that new technologies make possible. The technophiles must speak for themselves, and do so all over the place. My defense is that a dissenting voice is sometimes needed to moderate the din made by the enthusiastic multitudes. If one is to err, it is better to err on the side of Themusian skepticism. But it is an error nonetheless. And I might note that with the exception of his judgment on writing, Themis does not repeat this error. You might notice on rereading the legend that he gives arguments for and against each of Thuth's inventions. For it is inescapable that every culture must negotiate with technology, whether it does so intelligently or not. A bargain is struck in which technology giveth and technology taketh away. The wise know this well, and are rarely impressed by dramatic technological changes and never overjoyed. Here, for example, is Freud on the matter, from his doleful Civilization and Its Discontents. One would like to ask, is there then no positive gain in pleasure, no unequivocal increase in my feeling of happiness if I can, as often as I please, hear the voice of a child of mine who is living hundreds of miles away, or if I can learn in the shortest possible time after a friend has reached his destination that he has come through the long and difficult voyage unharmed? Does it mean nothing that medicine has succeeded in enormously reducing infant mortality and the danger of infection for women in childbirth, and indeed in considerably lengthening the average life of a civilized man? Freud knew full well that technical and scientific advances are not to be taken lightly, which is why he begins this passage by acknowledging them, but he ends it by reminding us of what they have undone. If there had been no railway to conquer distances, my child would never have left his native town, and I should need no telephone to hear his voice. If traveling across the ocean by ship had not been introduced, my friend would not have embarked on his sea voyage, and I should not need a cable to relieve my anxiety about him. What is the use of reducing infantile mortality when it is precisely that reduction which imposes the greatest restraint on us in the begetting of children, so that, taken all around, we nevertheless rear no more children than in the days before the reign of hygiene, while at the same time we have created difficult conditions for our sexual life in marriage? And finally, what good to us is a long life if it is difficult and barren of joys, and if it is so full of misery that we can only welcome death as a deliverer? In tabulating